Hey viewers and friends, horror fans and slasher fans, Andrew back at you with another slasher review, and I'm here to review Invitation Only, which is a Taiwanese slasher movie from a couple of years ago, so nice and recent. This one has Mandarin language for the most part, with a little bit of English dialogue as well, but I'm going to get to that later on in the review. So Invitation Only starts off, we meet the main character Wade, who is essentially a chauffeur or a driver for the rich and famous or business executive types. During one of his jobs, when he's driving a client round, the client offers him a exclusive party invitation. He's pretty excited by this and really can't believe that he's been invited to such a prestigious party, but on the back of the invitation it says make a wish and it'll come true. So Wade obviously makes a wish, he rocks up at the party and he meets 4 other people that have received the same invitation. We have Richard, Hitomi, Holly and Lynn. So at the beginning of the movie, Wade gets introduced to these characters, the rest of the guests get introduced to them all, and Wade soon becomes pretty close with this group. So that is essentially the main plot. During the party, after a couple of the characters' wishes get revealed and actually are true, it turns out to be a fight for survival for these characters, as the hosts of the party are pretty sick and twisted and use these guests as pretty much just torture subjects for the audience. There's other rich and famous people at the party, and they're essentially the audience while these victims are getting tortured. So that's pretty much all I really want to say in terms of plot, because obviously there's a lot more to it than that and a lot more is revealed throughout the film, but it is quite easy to spoil the plot line for this one. So that's all I'm going to talk about in terms of plot. Now, what I thought of this movie, I've got to say I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was fantastic and I really enjoyed it a lot. This was kind of random how I came across this film. I'd never heard of it before until it popped up on one of my Amazon searches, and after reading some of the reviews on Amazon, which I normally always take with a grain of salt anyway, I decided to look into it a little bit more, and it sounded really good. It was pretty cheap, so I thought why not, and I'm so glad I decided to check it out because I thought it was fantastic and I had a lot of fun with it. In terms of characters, the characters were great, especially Wade, who was the main character. Really likeable, and he turned out to be a great essential main character for the film. So in terms of villains, they were all right, nothing amazing. You pretty much knew who they were right from the start. They weren't well, one of them was masked, but essentially you knew who the villains were from the start, which wasn't really a bad thing. In terms of the other characters, Richard, Hitomi, Holly and Lynn, they were all really good as well. And in terms of kills, nothing utterly amazing. Fantastic gore though, and there were some fairly nice kills, but nothing that I hadn't really seen before. But I've got to say I absolutely loved the kill at the finale. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's one of my favourite kind of deaths when it comes to a slasher film or horror movie. So I was hoping it would happen, and then when it happened I actually cheered. Yeah, it was a pretty awesome death in the finale. But the effects, they were all practical, which was really good, and yeah, as I said, really good gore. Now, there were obviously torture aspects to the film, which normally I'm not an overly massive fan of. You know, there's a fine line between them being effective or then just stupidly overdone. I felt they nailed it really well with this. The torture scenes were really well done, very brutal, very graphic, which is one thing I'm noticing about Asian cinema. They never shy away from the on-screen brutality, which I happen to applaud. So yeah, well done with that. A lot of cringeworthy moments. I was looking away from the screen quite a few times during the torture parts of this movie, so really, really effective there. But overall, I had a lot of fun with this one, and considering I wasn't really too sure what to expect going into it, I thought it was fantastic. So if you're a fan of Asian cinema or slasher films in general, and you haven't checked this one out, I highly recommend Invitation Only. My only negative complaint about the movie is to do with some of the dialogue in certain parts of the film. Most of it was done in Mandarin with English subtitles, but some of the characters were European, so they obviously spoke in English, and even some of the Asian actors could speak basic English as well. So sometimes the dialogue switched between Mandarin and English, and for the most part it was alright, but sometimes it sort of threw me off a little bit of the pacing of the dialogue. But that's my only negative complaint about the film. Other than that, I thought it was really, really well done, and I had a great time with it. So for an overall score, I'm going to give Invitation Only a 3 out of 5. I highly recommend it, especially to fans of Asian horror or slasher fans in general. You'll get something out of this. So that has been my review. I hope everyone's enjoyed it, and thanks a lot for watching.